Stressful for a few days. I had a stressful hurricane for days.
Those take one.
Wait, that's about to be fine.
No, not really. It's just like as soon as you do it,
I wasn't gonna say anything. I just wanted to consider instead of asking.
Yeah, as soon as somebody sees it.
Nobody's listening. They're all very well.
Hopefully you all put them back over there and not over there. And hopefully you weren't lazy and you didn't put them underneath your desk like some people have done. I know. I see kids do it all the time.
79.
Why the phone's out?
I believe you're.
I'm sorry.
Oh, man. Angry. Angry. Not right now. You need to see the lesson. Now let you go. You're going to be first. All right. So, now that you tore those out, you also need your old pages to control page out. 15 through 48. Pages 15 through 48. Well, if you don't have a calculator, I'll bring one or some around in a minute.
Is it that bad?
Those pages are in the office.
Is it that bad?
Great.
I think
You got a lot going on there, and not much of it goes together.
What's wrong with
I mean, like, you know, it's just a lot of brightness and a lot of darkness. Conflicting. No, I don't tone you out. I just ignore you. How do you think that I get you to say stuff? How do you think that I get you to say stuff? Not a lot. The only thing I heard you talking about was yes.
My papers are off.
All right, and you just have to take notes. It's nothing like, I'm not doing a lesson from the book, I'm doing my own lesson, but just take notes. You have paper? Are you happy?
I'm just Wait, did I leave you some order? I look like this?
All right, so I am not using the specific examples in the book or the specific book pages. You're going to be responsible for the examples. I think they're the same exact thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to try to put it all into one lesson instead of turning through 4 or 5 different pages. I'll just put it all in one lesson. What did we say midpoint was? So we put a point on the line that is exactly in the middle, and the way we know it's exactly in the middle is that the left line segment will be the same length as the right line segment.
Definitely.
That's how we know it's the midpoint.
Definitely.
But sometimes I'm not going to give you numbers. So you need to understand how that concept can be expressed without numbers. So if I have a line, actually, let's just do an actual line segment this time. And all right, so we got a line segment. I can just write it. That's fine. A and B. Without numbers, somebody, and let's say we're going to name the point C, like we normally do. What would be, I hear you saying something. So what would be an expression you could give me that tells me C is the midpoint? No numbers though. No, enough to give me an expression that tells me C is the midpoint.
AC plus CB equals AB.
So Jacob said that if I put point C on there, and again, I'm not going to measure anything out, I'm just guessing, AC plus CB equals AB will tell me that's the midpoint. Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Pretty good? All right. And Jacob's pretty good in geometry, but apparently ain't that good. That's wrong. I'm broke. You don't even know it's broke. Wrong. Wrong. does not prove it's the midpoint.
You're wrong.
Yeah, see, you guys think that somebody knows their stuff, so you just follow everything they say. Because, Jacob, is this not true? Doesn't AC plus CB still equal AB?
I realize that soon.
Oh, we need something else. So and this is the most common mistake that I will still see, even after going over it on the next quiz, probably. You will think that that proves midpoint. What does that prove? And I don't know that I expect you to. That's little plus little is big. That's all that. Little plus little is big works anytime C is in between A and B. It works anywhere in here. So that doesn't prove midpoint. So if we want to prove midpoint, what statement can we say proves the midpoint? But how do we say that? How do we, without numbers, because I can't just say, oh, well, this is 4 and that's 4. This is 6 and that's 6. That's how we say it. This is what proves midpoint. Again, we're saying the same thing we said if they were the same number. It's just we're showing it with line segment notation. Line segment AC has a length of the same thing that line segment CB. So their measures are the same. The length is the same. What did we say length was? We got this in the last class. What did we say length was? Like, it's the math we use to find the length of something. As soon as I put numbers up there, you know it. How do I find the length of that line? Yes. So you need to write that again. If you need to find the length of a segment, and really it's really the measure of anything, really is going to be subtraction. When we get into angles, it'll still be subtraction. But for now, we're subtracting. 9 subtract 4 tells me that line segment has a length of 5. This will be one of the biggest mistakes I get when I do the next quiz on midpoints too. Because you're going to get, when you calculate the length of something is different than when you do the midpoint, but some of you are going to get them backwards and you're going to do the wrong thing. What is it? Can you come up with any other way to prove without numbers that C is the midpoint? Because there are actually, I could give you other information from the last lesson. What was the last lesson we did? Nobody even knows the last lesson. What was the last lesson? What'd you just take a quiz on? 2 words. 4. What'd you take a quiz on? But what about them? What were we doing? What were we using? Ratios and weights, right? So here's another way. And you need to be writing all of this down. Well, ratios and weights are the two. I'm just using the word. I'm having to put that other one. The 2 words are ratios and weights. The 2 words are ratios and weights. Now it's 2 because I wrote it. If I wrote it, it's got to be true. If I write it, it's got to be true. And if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. All right. So what would be a way then using that concept, ratios or weights, that would let us know C is the midpoint? So if we think ratios and weights, how could you tell me that C is the midpoint using that concept? Let me see if somebody else said it. Mike, if C is the midpoint, what's true about AC and CB? Already did it. What's true? Logan. Perfect. So the ratio that would tell us C is the midpoint is 1 to 1. What would be true about the weights if C is the midpoint? Yeah, same weights. I love when you guys get excited when you get something. So the weights are equal, just like ratios equal. So all of that tells me midpoint. Everything that I put up there so far tells me midpoint. Except for this. This does not tell me. What about this? Does this tell me it's the midpoint? Weird, but as what?
ACA.
So does that tell me that it's the midpoint? How?
That's something.
So let's say AB is 8. AC is 4. Does 4 plus 4 equal 8?
Yes.
Yeah, it does, right? I will defy you to come up with any situation where this won't work. If it's the midpoint. Anytime it is the midpoint. Because remember, AC is equal to CB if it's the midpoint, right? They're equal. So I could replace AB with AC if they're equal and get that formula. And again, if that doesn't make sense, just think about numbers. No matter what I put into here, this is going to be the same number if C is the midpoint. Like when C is the midpoint, this number just gets duplicated, right? Write any number, 11. Well, then that's 11. So I'm basically just adding this number twice because I'm just adding it to this segment, which is also the same number. So yeah, this works. And we could have said the same thing, CB plus CB proves its midpoint. You're just adding that same number twice, which is what I'm doing here, adding that same number twice. Because these are always going to be equal if C is the midpoint. So all that stuff proves midpoint. The only one that didn't is that, because that just tells me that C is in the middle of A and B. It could be anywhere in the middle, but it's somewhere in the middle. So keep that one straight for sure. And then this one actually comes in handy here, or this, because when we get to doing some of the problems, a lot of you got to where you were pretty good at the weights. You can just use weights to do midpoint problems. Make the weight of each point 1, and then do it just like you did weights. That way you're not really trying to learn something super brand new. Not that it's a difficult formula. So now let's talk about the formula. Anybody still writing that? Don't get rid of all of it. Once. It's actually couldn't be recorded anyways. Yeah, that'll work. All right, so here's your formula. Well, sort of. You're going to come up with it. Find the midpoint. We already did it once, but find it again. Find the midpoint of that. A lot of different ways to do it. I'm about to give you the formula. If you think you can actually come up with your own formula, better than trying to memorize mine. I mean, it's going to be the same formula. And then you'll do some problems. And I'll watch it twice the first every year. Are you guys playing tomorrow night? We're doing tomorrow night? I was talking to you. Bogey good at this year. I remember last year's game, boy, did not have the best first half, but man, do we have a good second half.
Smash.
So raise your hand, not just if you think you got the answer, but you have like a formula you use. You didn't just eyeball and say, well, what if this was 10? Well, that would be 6 and that would be 11, so it can't be 10. Like if you came up with a formula to actually calculate it, raise your hand.
Put it in weights.
We can use weights 1 and 1, but there's a specific midpoint formula, which is basically the same thing as that. What'd you do?
I did. It's kind of neat, like those, like adding is simple. So 17 is like 4 plus 17.
All right, so you're actually doing it the way we did ratios, and you're saying how long is the line? I need like 2 equal segments. But then if you do it that way, you got to remember to add it back in to the 4. Don't forget that part. How would we do this now if we put weights in? What would we do? Who am I gonna call on for this? Yeah. How do we do that? Exactly. That's the point of Solomon. Figure it out. There's enough up there. What do we do? I don't know. What have I written in? So what do we do when we see the weights in there? No, that's before weights. What do I do with that? Put the weights underneath the point, got a value above the point. It's a visual formula. Really? I thought you knew that part.
That's what I just said, little plus.
That's not little plus little big.
It's okay.
That is not like little plus little big.
Oh, wait, I missed some up. It's 4 times.
Then plus, then divided by 1 plus 1, right? So that's what we did with weights, right? That is the midpoint formula. We're always going to have the same number because we're always going to be multiplying by 1, right? So the value is not going to change for the endpoints. It's just going to be that value. We're going to add those two values together. And then we're going to divide, and it will always be dividing by 2. Because the weights are always going to be 1 and 1 if we're doing midpoint. So your formula is, here, I'm going to zoom out. Your formula is, let's do it in blue. I'm going to say first endpoint plus second endpoint. You can say left endpoint versus right endpoint, whatever you want. And then you're always dividing by 2. That's your O, and that equals the midpoint. If you, hey, again, I don't care how you do it as long as you show work and get the right answer. And your work makes sense. So we're adding them both together, dividing by 2, and that gives you the midpoint. And this is always the formula. Formula never changes, but they might give you different information depending on the problems. Some of the problems actually give you the midpoint and one of the endpoints, and you have to solve for the other endpoint. So the solution will just they might give you this. So again, C would be not there, we'll say. So they might do this, and this would be a little tougher your way, but you could still do it. I mean, it's the same formula. So they might say, all right, actually, I want you to try to solve this. If you're not good at algebra, you're going to need to work on, I assigned a bunch of IXLs that are algebra IXLs. I assigned some IXLs on, I think I'd already had some points, lines, and planes. I assigned some on midpoints. I also assigned, if you didn't see it earlier, hopefully you saw it, I assigned some stuff in McGraw-Hill on midpoints and bisectors. So this lesson right here, you've got some stuff you can practice, plus the pages. It might even be the same problems. The difference is if you do it in here, if you don't know what you're doing, at the bottom it says, do you need help with this problem? And you click on that and it basically tells you a big problem. Then it'll give you another one after that to try. So for those of you that need help, the online book's probably going to be the way to go. You need to get caught up. Well, now I got to apparently figure out how to get back. All right, so they might give you this problem. A is 7, C is 12.5. What's B? I want everybody to try to figure it out before I ask for any answers. Same formula. It's the same thing. This one doesn't change. Do it again. You do.
If there's a question mark.
So now they've given me this. And again, it doesn't really matter which endpoint I choose. I could choose second or first. They've given me those, so your variable would actually be this. Y would actually, or whatever variable you use. You need to know how to do the algebra. Yes, is that the answer? Yes. Okay. This is a question mark here. And then you need to solve for that. What is the value of point B? So they're not always going to give you the two endpoints and you just add them together and divide by 2. That's my point. Sometimes they're going to give you an endpoint and the midpoint, and you've got to figure out the other endpoint.
No, it's 7.
I'm going to call on somebody. So this is where I need to. Nice. There's somebody who gets them. I can do that right now. So the way the dice works is the first roll tells me which row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh. Not in geometry. And then the second roll tells me which seat numbers. I don't really have any good place to roll it. So what row or column or whatever?
Oh, that's
So 2. Oh, man. And I don't move on like until I want it. It's going to be one of you three. So I don't roll for the row again.
Wait, are you counting
3,
these
4, and 5. 3, 4, and 5. All right, if I get a 1 or a 2, I'll roll again. 3, 4, or 5. 3 is like being in Vegas. That's what I like doing. 3, 4, or 5. 3, 4, or 5.
6.
Yeah. Oh, there's no 6 either. All right, so I apparently have 3 then. 3, 4, or 5. 3, 4, or 5. Come on, 3, 4, or 5. Makes me feel like I'm playing craps. 6 again. So roll that. Oh, it's going there. 3, 4, or 5. Good lord, what are the odds of? Ooh, that's 6, 6, 6. Hope that didn't freak anybody out.
What?
3 it is. Gotcha, bro. All right, what do I do?
Do you divide? 12.5 divided by 7.
Well, let's just talk about the fact
Can you stop
of
that?
how to solve something. Yeah. So here's your process. Again, math doesn't change just because I change the numbers. This is the formula. I just have different information, right? So let's plug in what we have. I'm gonna erase out of it. So I think everybody should have that copy down. So do I know the midpoint? I do. So I'm gonna replace the midpoint with what? Going really fast. What's the midpoint? The value, not a letter. Yeah, so I just put a number over here now instead of all my numbers going over there. Now, what's my, and again, really doesn't matter whether it's the first endpoint or second, because either way, you're going to have a variable on top added to a number. So we'll go ahead and use our number here. What's the number for the first endpoint? 7. I'm going to go ahead and change this now to my variable. So y, actually, let's just make it b, I guess. So b is what we're solving for. 2 is a number. Change that. Now the question is how to solve. How do I solve for that variable? Solving means I want to get b all by itself. So I need to get rid of the 7 and the 2. Which one do I get rid of first? Get rid of the 2 first. Good. So if you don't know how to solve, then you need to practice some of your algebra, which you'll get practice with these. So how do I get rid of the 2? That's what I need to get rid of. Opposite math. Always think opposite. If this is divided by 2, I need to multiply. That's a multiplication symbol. I need to multiply by 2. So that gets rid of that, just opposite math. Well, if I multiply 2 by there, or if I multiply by 2 on the right, I got to multiply by 2 on the left.
26.
So I get 25, I think, right? 25 is what I now have on the left. So how do I get rid of the 7 now? So b is all by itself. That's what solving is. Get the variable by itself. So what's the opposite of this? B is 18. And just to make sure, what can we do? How would we, just to make sure, confirm?
How would you do it with the weighted out?
What would I do to make sure if I wasn't super comfortable yet? What can I do? Like to make sure that I know that's truly the right number. What would be true? We'll call it. I'll call on you. What can I do? I could go ahead and use the real formula, but what's the definition of a midpoint? What's a midpoint do? Janaea, what's a midpoint do? Girl, I will put you in this seat right here. We will be best friends by the end of the year.
But oh, Brian, Steve.
So write it down. You don't want to be my best friend. Write this down. And I'm going to call on you again for the same question. The midpoint creates two equal length smaller segments. Cuts it in half, right? So they're going to be the same length. Well, this length is 5.5. Again, length is just subtraction. So 12.5 subtract 7 gives me that. 18 subtract 12.5. Better give me the same number, and it does. That's another way to check and make sure you did your math right and you came up with it.
How would you do it with the weights? Did you say
It'd be you'd have to do that whole formula, and you'd wind up getting the same exact thing. When you did 1 times the variable, 1 times y, like so. Just because you asked, I didn't do this in other classes. But, I mean, I showed them you could use weights, but so again, if this is a weight of 1, right? And a weight of 1, but that's y. That's my variable, right? So I would say, well, 1 times 7. 7 plus 1 times y is y, divided by 1 plus 1. And then equals e. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Equals 12.5. Equals. So it's the same exact formula. All right, so your assignment, you got a bunch of problems, but again, I don't grade it. So if you want to do every single one of them, great. You want to do
So
one
no
out of each
test?
section, great. Ronaldo, earbuds out. No earbuds.
wait, we have no test Monday?
Well, you have one. Why don't you show up and take it? I'm just waiting to get the registries. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So, you have to do. You're responsible for, and you. Right now, we haven't even done all of them. Examples 1, and then 3 through 6, and then problems 1 through 16,
What page is that?
and 19 through 40. Oh, page 37 is the problems. I had it written up, but I erased it, so I'll write it up on this paper. Page 37, 1 through 16. Right now, you can only probably do 1 through 16. We're going to go over more in a minute. 1 through 16. And then 19 through 48.
37, just that one.
19 through 48 are on the next page, page 38.
Good.
Somebody, you asked me earlier? You? Oh. I remember
We
somebody.
basically just do exactly what we just did.
For 1 through 16, yeah. 1 through 16 is super easy. It should take you like 2 minutes to do all of them.
And a weight, okay, and a weighted average.
Yeah, if you want to do it that way, that's fine.
I like the algebra.
Okay, so I'm just today.
I'm going to give you like 5 minutes to work on those, and I got to show you how to do 19 through 48. This is only for 1 through 16. Yeah, 2 numbers together and divide by 2. Didn't take you long to do that. Do you have a bowling match next week? Bowling so?
I'm on everything there.
Huh?
I'm on everything.
Is that what it works? Yeah, I don't have a schedule for you guys for that. What's the date on that? 6. 7. Is it always at the same place? You have like a home bowling alley, I guess home alley.
No, none of that.
Oh, let me do it. As soon as I finish attendance, we'll do the next piece. Oh, I can't do attendance. I'm recording. I'll do attendance afterwards. Oh, if you want to see your quiz while letting you guys have some time, I'll start showing quizzes real quick. See it?
Yeah.
Let me. Yeah, only one person at a time. So if you see somebody coming up, just wait. This is fourth period, right? Fourth. Again, they were better, but I was still surprised that they weren't amazing.
I know mine's.
Expected amazing.
Gotta be a secret.
Let's see. G last.
Yeah, why?
Me
next.
So you coming up for this?
Yeah. I call it.
Of course you got.
There were a few people that got some 100s, few that got two 100s, few that didn't.
Huh?
And then there were a few that didn't.
You said we could do 7 through 12.
You should be able to do 1 through 16, I think.
You're right. I'm over here.
I don't think they even gave you any difficult ones in 1 through 16.
No, they didn't.
I was a little surprised at that.
I should get it
You were
for.
one of the ones that got.
No, I think you.
I didn't.
I could just let him take a question. No, you probably
You're
do.
trying to use numbers, but you didn't.
Math isn't just like that. Was
Math isn't
I
like.
think you may have taken this issue.
Science.
I'll let you guys take three.
Don't wish it. I'm sorry. I'm going through now.
Well, Nick, do you want to take?
So I think it's
Wait,
great.
do you want to see it, Nick, or you?
Yeah, I'm
there.
in a rush at the short.
Wait, I can speak. I just leave it. Let it change. Like it's not like they have it. Yeah, if they language it, it's like use that fact to like question. That's. Like right on saying everybody's gonna be.
Pretty good.
Just for
On that one. You just didn't give me enough. Okay. You might have known it, but remember, you gotta. I have to be able to follow your logic.
I'm confident. I said that.
Oh, you want some? Plus, I don't. This one I was really surprised at. So this is the weighted one. Weights here. Again, that's in the mix. Definitely would have been one way or another. So now hopefully we do that. Wasn't sure what you did here. This one, the ratios you got. Actually, it was probably the hardest problem you got right, which is why I went all the way up to that.
No. I have.
So these are again.
Pretty much.
It,
So writing is.
oh, you came up with it. This equals length. You should have added that back to that if you're going to do it that way. So this or that would have given you the correct answer, or you could have flipped those and done the weight answer.
It's like you need to
Flip the numbers. This is the weight of 2, this is the weight of 1. You need to go back and watch the video for sure, though. But it's funny. It's the hardest, probably the hardest one. So that you got that. So there's 2 grades. This is the weighted average grade or weights grade, and this is the ratio. The ratios of 1. Yeah. So you're varied.
What did you say about that?
Okay, you're.
No, just moving other people around. That's the other one.
It's like.
Brian,
I'm
like
sure.
last.
Which is why what I wear what with.
And I'm just in moving people around. I saw you.
I'm in weight.
Again, not the worst, but I feel like you can do better for sure. So you got this one right on the weight.
Yeah, I figured I got beat.
No,
I literally use shoes to go with the watch.
You missed a bunch. Oh, because you got like the only thing you did here is actually been.
Oh, why plain yellow?
You wrote the point is 6. So I pretty much gave you that. I was like, why is his grade so high when you missed it? Because all you did is you just wrote the wrong. You didn't. So basically, you got those right. You just wrote that down there. So what hurt you is the explanation. Which hopefully now, after going through it again, or if you need to, watch the review video if you need to. But other than that,
I was looking at, I got a 7. What's that?
good screen.
So
So yeah, you're gonna need to go back and watch the review video. Again, this is you or one of the ones ready.
so it's a pretty cheap.
So
They're used to like 4 or 5 days.
So this is about length, which means the left side should be longer.
I thought.
Yeah, again, just watch the video. Go back and review that for sure.
That's kind of biased.
If I get it back, I'm so upset. Listen, try. Don't do that.
It wasn't work. So again, I really thought that you were. So again, we went over this, so you should understand that. Hopefully now you put the middle. Unless it's a 1-to-1 ratio, it's never going to be.
Yes. It's complicated.
I look like somebody who just pretty.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, you actually just did math on it, but I didn't say that. For that. Again, kind of the same thing here.
I don't hear it.
2-to-1, which would be, again, that's about length. Left length should be lost. Left length is 6. Right? Well, that would be Sept. That one should be longer. I think if you retake that, yeah, but you should. I would retake it if I were you. I think you can do better. It's up to you. I mean, that's again. I don't force anybody to do. Well, I mean, that's
Could have
up
done
to you.
better, could have done worse.
That's up to you. Whatever you think that is. You
But
know
I
what,
could have
you
done
know
worse,
what that
could have
means.
done worse.
No, you could have done better. You would
Yeah.
not have done worse. No, you know, if you do a retake, it can't go down.
That's true.
So just keep that in mind that I feel like, because there could be a quiz that comes up later in the quarter that's just really difficult,
So it'll really bring it down.
which means it'd be nice to get the ones that you can do better on, even though you're it's not bad. Right? So that's up to you though. I don't force anybody to come and do it all. All right, so after this person, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the next piece.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
You were kind of in the same boat. I was kind of surprised it wasn't higher. So again, you the explanation from you got all the solving right. So again, A was not. Oh, A minus. So you said E, right? Again, the ratio is about length. You're taking that as saying it's E. Then that one's the big one, and this one's the small one, which isn't same. Kind of the same thing here. It's nice to put D in the middle. If one point is a lot heavier than the other, then it'd have to be a weight of 1. All right. So but again, we just went over it. I went over it in the review video if you need to watch that. And then I would again, you don't have to retake it. It's not horrible, but I think it's one that you could probably get a 100 later. Study a little bit, see it. So it's up to you. All right. All right. So next set of problems. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on.
If you didn't finish it up before lunch.
You're not supposed to finish all the. I mean, I wasn't expecting you to finish them before I started the next thing. So here's the next piece. They're giving you. Oh shoot! I forgot to go over one thing. There's a definition you need to know. So write this down. So we said midpoint is the point that's right in the middle, right? It splits the line into 2 equal length segments. Well, there's this other thing called a bisector. A bisector does the same thing, only instead of it just being a single point, it's a line. So if we say that line, if we say this line, actually here, let me make it easier to talk about. There. So if we say that the red line splits the black line into two equal segments. So the black line is now, this segment is the same length as this segment. So the red line split it in half. The red line is called a bisector. It's basically a line that goes through the midpoint. It's kind of an easy way to think of it. So a bisector is something that splits something in half. Well, I'm just, because we're actually going to see bisector in a lot of different lessons, not just line segments.
Will this be in our next class?
Yeah. So it splits in half, splits something in half. So it could split an angle in half. If you have an angle that's a 40-degree angle and you draw a bisector in, it makes two 20-degree angles. So we'll get to angle bisectors as well as just line segment bisectors. All right, so here's what the actual lesson is, though. That was just a definition.
Oh, so confused.
So the next section, I think it starts with problem, what is it? 19. I got seats up front for those of you that I feel like aren't them.
Oh, that's the back.
So
What the?
if I want to find the midpoint of a line segment that's on a coordinate plane now, or they might not even give you a line on a coordinate plane. They might just get, and this is what they do in the book, they don't give you a drawing of a line. They just give you this. Or they give you two ordered pairs that represent the endpoints.
Would you do anything the same from what we just did to this? Or is it like a whole new thing?
I'm about to go tell you how you do. So again, look at problem number 19.
Okay.
That 3 is going to be right there. Every time I'm talking, I'm hearing. One thing if we all had 100 on quizzes, but we don't.
I almost did.
So if they give you two ordered pairs, if you want to draw the line out, you can. Like if you want to just use graph paper or create your own real quick, just get an idea of how it looks. It wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if you decide to choose the way I'm about to show you, although you still don't really need the line. You could, there's a method that the book gives you, which I'm not even going to go over. You could use the book method, which is what I'll get to in a second. But what did we say is true? Well, how did we do these problems before? When you had a coordinate plane and we wanted to find a point on the line. We used weights, right?
Yeah.
What did we say the weights are if it's the midpoint? Do that. Weights 1.
Well, that's easy.
Weights 1. Same exact problem you already learned how to do. So many.
Is that what we did?
So go ahead and do it real quick. Do that. Well, do this one. Practice this one because I want to show you what the
What if
real
you-
formula is.
Could you just do 19 for not?
I don't really care. I'm going to show you the formula using this. What the true formula is. Because it'll be the same thing we do using weights. It is exactly what the formula is. I'm just showing you how they come up with the formula.
No, it's X.
Yeah, so again, you got to do the weight. I'll circle. You do the weight and the X value, weight and the X value, and then you do the weight and the Y value and the weight and the Y value. If you don't remember, can't really see the red and the green. Actually, the green a little darker. It doesn't show up.
You gotta do it the other way.
So there. So remember, whatever's in circle, you multiply, then you add those two numbers together, and then you divide by the weights added together, which is just 2. 1 plus 1 is 2. Are you? I'm not answering. Let's do it real quick. So what you should have gotten, you can check your math. Actually, I'll do it in. So -8 plus 7 divided by 2. So that's 1 times -8 is -8. 1 times 7 is 7. The weights added together would be 2. That's your formula for doing this right there. You're just taking the two x values, adding them together, because they'll always be the same. You're never going to change them. They're multiplied by 1. They're always going to be multiplied by 1 because the weight is always going to be 1. That's the definition of a midpoint. So in order to figure this out on a line segment on a coordinate plane, you just take the x's and add them together and divide by 2. Then take the y's, add them together and divide by 2. So the y's would be 1 times 4 is 4, plus 1 times 9 is 9. The weights added together is 2. And again, you're just adding the x's together, dividing by 2, adding the y's together, dividing by 2. But you get the same thing if you used a weight of 1 and a weight of 1. All right, now you should be able to do through 30.
19.
You should be able to do 19 through 30. 33 through 38, you kind of can do. The only difference is they're giving you the end point and the, wait.
They give you a
Yeah,
point.
they're giving you the end point and the midpoint. So that goes back to one of these will now be a variable. So it won't be, you don't have these two numbers of the formula. You would have the x or the y value for the midpoint is what you would have. I'll do one in a minute. Just for now, just focus on, what is it, 19 through 30. So like, go ahead and skip. Don't keep working on the first 16. Stop working on those. You can come back to them. Plus those are easier anyway. Do some of the ones that are 19 through 30. You should at least be able to do 1 or 2 of those before I start.
Can I put my work in my notebook?
I don't care where you put any of your work. Don't grade work. Whatever is organized, practice. I'd practice being very neat and organized in my work right now, since a lot of you, I think, lost points. Well, not a lot. Some of you definitely lost points probably on the quiz because your work was too difficult to follow. I don't remember. I remember some people specifically that I'm like, I can't figure out what to do. Clearly, they had some understanding. Some of the numbers were the numbers they should have been using, but I couldn't even find where their formula was or their final answer was.
That's bad.
I get that you're in a hurry during a quiz, but really would like to do a attendance manual. Bunch of people. 20s, probably like maybe only 2 or 3. Are those your pages? Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You took really good notes on everything I did, right? So, Vicky, you took really good notes on everything.
Right here. I should be good notes.
Yeah, and
She has notes. I can get her. I can get her. She has notes.
you'll find out. Again, this lesson, this next quiz is not a super challenging quiz. It's not easy.
If you're good at algebra.
It is more algebra. There is more algebra in it for sure. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and I'll start giving you. Oh, actually, I don't remember the answers. Anybody done with number 19? What'd you get?
6.
4,6. 4,6. All right, so 4,6 sounds right. How about 20?
5 negative 1.
5, -1. All right. How about 21?
-3, -3.
-3, -3 sound good? I'm seeing heads nod. All right, we'll stop there. I'm gonna probably go ahead and start the next piece.
Can I move on past 30?
Yeah, do I mean you can do them all if you want to try to do them all. It's the same formula, it's just they're now giving you different information. So it's gonna handle that.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm about to show you.
It's a lot of information.
Eh, 2 points. They gave you 2 points in the other ones.
Well, 30, like that one in particular. 33.
So again, that's where drawing a line, even if it's like, even if you don't put like it on a grid or anything, it can still kind of help you visualize what you're doing. I'm gonna draw one. I'm gonna show you how I would do it. We don't need that anymore. Actually, I'll go ahead and get it set up. All right, so what did they give you? Actually, to make it even better.
Oh, that's easy. Yeah.
Oh,
Right here.
that didn't work.
It's on the end, some extra
There
stuff
we
there.
-2.5. Perfect. All right, so go ahead, stop working on those. Hopefully you wrote down the answers when we were calling them out. They don't give me like an answer sheet. There is a teacher's edition, but unfortunately they don't give me like one easy answer page. So I'll figure out a way to get the answers available as you're practicing on your own. They're only giving you ordered pairs. So we're on number, what did I say, 30, 31? What's the next section?
33.
33. So they're only giving you ordered pairs, but I would still draw a line out. It doesn't have to match up like the points at all. Like it does. You don't need it to. It could be slanted like this. It could be slanted like that. It could be flat. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you want to draw the actual line on graph paper, that would be the best thing to do. But I'm just showing you just to eyeball what's going on, just to get a visual idea. It's telling me what are the coordinate, or they're asking what are the coordinates of the missing end point B if a why is it giving me find the coordinates of the missing endpoint if B is the midpoint of AC. Okay, so B is the midpoint of AC. I can at least draw that in. So B is the midpoint of A and C. So visually, that helps me to know what it looks like. And every problem is set up like this, because they're saying that at the beginning, right? So if you look at number 33, right above that, every problem is set up the same way. They're just going to change the numbers they give me, the points. So it's telling me that point C, I guess I'll do 33, that's fine. So point C is -5, 4. And point B is point B is the midpoint. So I'm now putting my other ordered pair in the middle of the line for the midpoint. So I need to figure out, well, what would this endpoint be? What X and Y? There's a bunch of ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way I would do it. I'd do it until I wouldn't use a formula at all. What do we know about a midpoint? The definition of midpoint
is the half of divides to.
It's gonna make this segment equal this segment, right?
Yes.
So all I really need to do is if I know the distance between the x's, and if you don't follow this, I'm gonna do the formula way.
Subtracting.
Yeah, basically I'm just saying, well, how far does it take me to get from that x to this x? And then I'm gonna do the same with the y's. It's going to be a length of what for my x's? Well, it's going to be a length of 3, right?
So would it be a -3 or would it?
No, distance length can never be negative.
Okay, so
Just
3.
like if you need to think about it on a number line, look at a number line. If I'm going from there's -2 and there's 5, what's the length of that? It really doesn't matter which direction I'm going. The length is still 3. It's 3, right? So I would have, now you would have to understand.
Right now?
My dog got that fit on. My dog had that fit on. I know I've seen my dog.
Oh, no, it's 12. I thought it's 10. I was like 10.
Yeah, that's like shit on. Hold on.
So here's the only tricky part.
One eye open.
Again, it gets a little tougher, so focus.
Three.
It would be nice to have it on graph paper, probably,
Wouldn't it, wait, wouldn't it be two?
but,
I did four.
well, here's the thing.
I'm stuck now.
I think I drew it different than,
I think you drew it the wrong way.
it is the wrong way, you're right. And that's what I'm checking to see if they, sometimes A is the left point, it looks like, sometimes C is the left point. And I believe you can just tell that from the order of the points they're giving you. So it should have been drawn this way. So you need to make that note real quick. The order of the points that they give you is the order they should be on the line.
Wait, now you're confused.
So if they give you C first, right, like 33 says C first. Like, look at the problem. C is the first point. Then C is your left point. Get 33. C is the first point. I had written it at the end.
Oh, she's the first one. So when did you have to make that?
What in the world?
See, now it's broken.
Oh, no, I can't. The screen doesn't work with that. How'd that even happen?
What?
Oh. I'm hoping this works. Maybe not. Oh. I don't even know how. Oh, there. Oh, man. Oh, there. All right. So, again, you need to make this note. If you ask me this question, I might get fired. I'm going to hit you. All right? The first point they give you in the problem is the left point of the line segment. B is always the midpoint, so you don't really have to worry about where B goes. They've told you B is the midpoint. So in this case, they gave me C first.
-5.
So it'd be -5, comma 4 over here. So that line would be slanting up from left to right is the way it would look like. You can plot it on a graph if you have graph paper. I think I actually have graph paper if you really want some.
How would you?
So we're about to do it. If I'm going from X to Y, the length of that X to Y value is what? Like just the length of from -5 to -2 is what?
3.
It's 3, right? You can subtract if you really want. You just want to have a process. You would say -2, subtract -5, and you'd get 3. Or you could think of a number line and say, well, if I'm on -5, 1, 2, 3 gets me to -2. However you come up with it, that's the X length. So I need to go 3 more for my X value for A. So what would I do? What would I get?
Wait. There you go.
I should have put this on a graph first.
You already got 3.
But they're not giving you a graph. So, well, to go from here to here, the length, the X length is 3. Well, then the X length from here to here needs to be 3.
Okay.
So what number would I get? Right.
6.
Nope. So I'm starting at -2.
Oh.
Look at a number line. There's one up there.
1.
I need to put this. Hold on. I didn't do it this way in the last class.
Wait, is it 1?
I'm gonna just start from scratch. Clearly, we're not visualizing what I'm saying.
I can't visualize anything.
I see that.
Wait, no.
And the reason I was trying to do that is because they're not giving you a graph. But if you need to draw a graph, draw a graph. Because it's people are struggling without the graph. It's the same problem. What was the point again for C? +4. And then -2, 5, right? That's the point right there. Well, that's to the midpoint.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I can't. I'm gonna give you the answer. See, that's why I can't do it because I'll give you the answer if I draw it.
Wait,
So we know that there needs to be another segment on the right.
So you have to go to the right now. So you would go 3 to the right, down 1,
Well, not down.
up 1.
All right, so really quickly.
Because you have to do the opposite.
All right, so you three, move up. Done. So come on now, go, bring stuff, do whatever you want, but I'm over it. Warning after warning after warning doesn't mean a thing.
Okay, just
And now I'm starting to try to get a complex part across, and you're talking more than ever. Let's go, come on. Nope, come on. Exactly. Next, you all three gonna be next to me. So let's go. Come on. Maybe this will remind you that when I say something like 4 or 5 times, I'm probably serious about it. All right. So there's 2 ways to do this. I would really, now that I'm looking at it, I would strongly suggest you get a piece of graph paper out and draw it. Because I think it immediately hit with Nick as soon as he saw it. If this is the midpoint, and I went right 3 and up 1 to get to the midpoint from the left endpoint, what would I do now to get to the end, the right endpoint? Yeah, exact same thing. 1, 2, 3. That's the endpoint. I don't need any math whatsoever. I'm done. That's the end. Well, what's the x and the y for that? Well, what's the x and the y for that?
Oh. 6.
So visually, you can solve that without any math. If it's a relatively easy problem. If they give you the left endpoint and the right endpoint, plot those, and just know if it's the midpoint, I'm just duplicating that again.
So
This pattern will just duplicate to get to the far right side of the segment.
would you have questions like 37 and 38 on it?
Absolutely. If I assign them, then you're gonna have questions on them. So let me show you what I was trying. Oh, I can't zoom in anymore. All right, so it's not, unfortunately, I can't zoom in anymore.
How would you do that?
Now let's go over the math behind it. So we start at negative 5, 4. And then this one, so that was C, negative, God, that's getting kind of cramped. Here, I'm just going to write it up here. Negative 2, comma 5. All right, so this is this point down here. So what I was saying before, that really small, I heard it.
Real snort.
So what I was saying is just look at the x values, right? I went from negative 5 to 2. I went right 3, right? From negative 5 to negative 2 is 3 to the right. I said, then we need to go 3 to the right again, which visually is what you saw immediately. So if we go 3 to the right to get to the midpoint, from the midpoint, we need to go 3 to the right. So negative 2 plus 3 gives me the 1. That's what I was trying to do without the visualization, but I'm just going to say, get a piece of graph paper and draw out the graph.
So, as you said,
You started off at
Are you going back to the visual part, like how we got that, or are you just saying my number?
the math part, like how you
Okay.
get stuff.
How far to go from, so again, this is the x value, right, for this point. And this is the x value for that point. So negative 5 and negative 2, right? So how far did I go to get to that point from one x to the next x? 3, right?
3 up.
Well, then I need to go to get from this x, so now I'm here, and I want to find out what is that x. I need to go 3 more, right? If you're going to the right, you're adding 3. So I said, this is the x I'm at now, negative 2 plus 3 gives me the 1 that is the answer for x. Again, if you need to draw it out, draw it out. If you can visualize it on your own and they give you the 2 points, and you can just skip that part. It'll save you a little time.
You do like one like 37 or 30.
I'm not worried about the fraction ones. It's same concept. You just plug in decimal. So you can do fractions on your decimal. You're still doing the same exact thing. That's why I say the visual part, you need to understand the visual part, but ultimately the math part's the way you're gonna have to do it if it's fraction or decimal. Yeah, I've got graph paper. I'll pass some out. I can pass it out. So now for the y's, it's a little different. You have to imagine going up and down because that's the y-axis is up and down. So if I started it here, my y value was 4. I went
Wait, that was
up
only for
1 to get to the y value of this point.
That was only for X.
Yeah, that was only x. We just saw for the x value, right? We got 1, we got 1. Now, if you visually do it, you're getting both. If you can visually see where to put the point, that is your x and y. And you just find the x and the y for that point.
Oh,
I'm showing you the math behind how we got these mathematically.
Oh, okay.
We just added 3 to the -2 to get 1.
Yeah.
Well, what did I add, or how far up did I go to go from 4 to 5? To go from here to here. What did I add vertically? 1. So I need to add 1 again vertically, right? So if I'm going from 5 to 6, well, if I'm going up 1 from 5, 5 plus 1 is 6. That's what I was trying to show without visually being able to do it. But again, just get graph paper, draw it out. And I think normally you guys, now if it's got fractions in it, you're right, it is a little tougher to see visually, but you can still estimate and say, okay, well, if I went over 3.5, I need to go over 3.5 again to the right. Or if I went up 2.4, I need to go up 2.4 again. Still think the visual part will work, even if you're not exactly sure where to put the points. So that's for, and there is a formula for that. Like you can still do the formula. The formula is you take the two x values. So what were the two x values? I'm going to call it left x, right x. Let me show you this real quick. So left x and right x. So instead of endpoint, I can't really, there's not just one number. Divided by 2 equals the middle x, right? So that's same formula, only I'm going to use y and an x because I need two numbers. So my left x is -5. My right x, I don't know. So that would be I literally put the x there. That's what I'm trying to figure out is what is the far right x. I know I divide by 2. I know my middle x was -2. It's really the midpoint x is really what it is. So I'm just using, this is just the midpoint formula. Midpoint equals the left point plus the right point divided by 2. Only I got to do that once for the x's and then once for the y's. So oh shoot, I forgot now. My middle x was -2. Now I can solve that out and just solve for x. I would need to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of this. So if I multiply this side by 2, 5 plus x, -5. So -5 plus x. Well, to get rid of that -5, what do? Opposite math. So +5 here. No, it's -5. You're right. Opposite math. If that's a -5, then we have to add 5. Always opposite. Those signs should always be opposite if you're adding and subtracting. So that means x equals 1, which is what we got just by counting right to the right 3 times. So it's the same formula if you really want to use the book formula. That's the way they're going to show you in their example. If you like the way they do that, fantastic. Use that. If you want to do it the visual way, I would imagine certainly for my quiz, even if I give you one with decimals or fractions. I don't particularly want to take the fraction one away from you, but maybe I'll do that another day. I'm not going to do it today, but try it on your own. You have a calculator, like nobody was waiting. All right, so now you should be able to do 33 through 38.
Up the graph.
And then I got, oh, hold on. You got to go. I got to show you one more thing right now because I got to get through it on the video. So if you want to go ahead and go because I held you. Just say I held you during part of the lesson. There's one more thing real quick I got to show you for 39 through 48. M is the midpoint, FM. Yeah. So they're asking you in those problems to figure out what the whole length of the segment is. I'm not doing one of those. So again, if C is the midpoint, what's true? Yeah, you better all have that down by now. I said it like 20 times, I feel like, during this one class. This is congruent to that. So what they're giving you, I'm pretty sure, let me just make sure. Yeah. They're giving you these two segments, but they're giving you that length in a really weird way. And I'm just making this one up. It's not one of your problems. They're saying, well, 3x plus 4 is that length, and 7x subtract 10, or something like that. This is not in your book. And you guys freak out as soon as you see variables. Same problem we've done. Every single problem we've done is the same. What is true? Write it in like the correct notation for line segments. What is true about the line segments? Like with no numbers. Actually, I don't have to know. AC has got to equal CB. That's the definition of a midpoint. So if I know that that is true, I know C is the midpoint. That's the key. They're telling me the point in the problem. I forget what letter. They're telling me that's the midpoint. Then I know the two little segments are equal. These are just numbers. Here's the part only part really that you gotta be okay with. This is just a number. That's just a number. It's just represented weird. Like, for example, we can all have $10 and $20, we'll say. We can all have $20 in this room. And we can have it 20 different ways. We have a $20 bill, 2 10s, 4 5s, 21s, and then we could make up combinations of all different kind of coins and dollars. It's still $20. This is just a number. It's just shown differently than this, which is the same number. So if AC is equal to CB, I know AC is what? What's the length of AC? There, what's the length of AC? Sure you do, it's right there. It is the same, but what is it? Doesn't have to be a number. You guys get so caught up when I ask what the length of something is. You get so caught up on it being a number. Not a number. We don't know the number yet. So what is it? Nope.
3x. Well, I tried.
It's right there. I just told you that's the length of it. That's just the length. Don't freak out because you don't know what number it is yet. That's what you're solving for, is to figure out the number. And if I know that's equal to CB, what is CB?
7x.
Yes, those things I circled are just the lengths. We may not know what x is yet to calculate it out, but if I know this is an equation, now I can solve for x. I think the problems ask you for the whole line segment. So really quickly, I'm going to show it just because I'm recording. First of all, you got to get all the variables, or get rid of the variables on one side. So I got rid of those.
Oh, okay.
I'm literally just calling zeros.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now you have a two-step equation, plus 10 plus 10. 14 equals 4x divided by 4 divided by 4.
What is
But
that?
that's only what x is. Then you got to plug that back in. 3 times
It's like a 3-step equation.
14 over 4 plus 4. And you got to add that Hold on, I'm recording. That's why I'm still going. 14 over
All of it.
4. So if you add all of that up, or do the math, you don't really add it all. That's the length of AB.
What is that?
There was way more to it than that. So
What do I say on my thing? I think you were holding me up. You said something like that.
Yeah, I get it. And say I look at like the change between different numbers. So that means that.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, go.
So what do I?
I finished that just so you'd have it on the video since we didn't get through it. So watch it.
So what do I
Watch
say?
the end.
Like looking at it because the X changes.
So how would you do that?
If X changes by 4, that means that right number.
Well, X doesn't